Hello, everyone. I hope you all are well. Um, I thought of starting a video series on how actually we predict. So there's a lot of theory behind it, a lot of things that astrologists actually have to know before we actually get into the art of predictions and forecasting for our clients. So I thought of giving my audience a rundown or basic overview about certain things. Right? Obviously, there are many elements to astrological sciences because to predict the events of someone's life, right, what they are going to experience or whether they are not going to experience something and to what effect, right? So if someone's going to get into a negative event like an accident, how bad is going to be, what kind of damage that person is going to face, right? So is it a damage to property or the car or damage to a limb, maybe a broken feet, broken hand, or does it actually cause death? Right, so the event is the same, accident, car accident that you may be driving or not, and the effect of it, the impact of such an event. So we can actually say such a thing. If we can't say such things in astrology, what is the point of it? And it's just like a guessing game. But astrological sciences is not a guessing game. Unfortunately, a lot of the elements have been lost over the years, uh, and astrologers for the past 200 odd years have actually created their own understanding with their limited capacity and what they have observed, right, from the villages in India uh, to the towns. And it's kind of like an undue influence that astrologers have, like going to a car mechanic, right? You go for a simple fault, right? Some cranky sound that you hear in your car, but when you take it to the um, mechanic or the foreman, and he says, "Oh, you've got this impact coming up, this effect, this has damaged this particular unit is failing, so it's going to cost you an additional $2,000." So if you do not have those skills, that knowledge, if you do not have the mechanics of a car kind of knowledge, um, you really do not have much of a say because undue influence, you have to believe what the mechanic is saying. In so many ways, astrologers have been doing this, and they started creating their own belief, and a lot of it has been lost because that new knowledge, their belief, has been passed down from generation to generation, right? Master to tutelage, student, and it's all been lost. Anyway, a lot of it is now being it's being put back by astrologers who are actually studying the art and observing through the painstaking work of observing through clients' events. And I thought, in order to fulfill my own view that astrology shouldn't die off, it should be celebrated and enhanced. Uh, I'm going to retain some of that information here in the channel of mine. So let's get started. I'm going to show a basic Rasi chart and I'm going to give a rundown, part of a rundown. So we have seen this Rasi chart before, 12 houses, and they're oriented in the South Indian structure. It's like a circle, but actually it's a square, but it's 360 degrees in 12 houses. So each house is basically 30 degrees. Now, on the middle right side, we've got the houses for Kadagam and Simham, which are the two luminary planets owned by the moon and sun, respectively. And right in the other side of it, we've got the two houses owned by Saturn, which is Magaram and Kumbham. Right, so two luminaries, or the one with light, against the one without light. Or rather, that is, Saturn is the last planet that has a bit of light coming from the sun. And beyond that, Uranus, Neptune do not actually receive the sunlight, which in this instance is actually starlight. And how you would have to imagine is kind of like at night when you stand outside, you see thousands of stars. Right? We do receive that light from those stars, but they do not necessarily illuminate the surface of the earth. They're just too far away. But we receive it to the point of just acknowledging their presence. Yeah, so kind of like on the surface of Uranus and Neptune, the sun, which is effectively a star, is actually doing that. Now, on this side, the two luminary planets, right, they take on the format of our parents. So the moon is actually our mother, and the sun is actually, in astrological terms, represents the father. In essence, these two planets represent our birth, or we being created, our creation. Right. So in the astrological system, the middle right of the bhavas are actually uh, structured to birth or creation or positive things, something you want to create in your life, right? We have to see the impact and the effects of the two houses here, Kadagam and Simham. Now, in other formats, you can also think of the moon and the sun, the two organs or the cells of the reproduction system, right? So for the mother, we've got the ovum or ovaries. Actually, it's the ovum being the cell for creation. For the father's sense, we've got the sperm. Right, so sun and the moon, in order to actually talk about creation, we actually have to talk about the reproduction of the human race. So in this sense, the sun and the moon representing these two cells on the middle right side. Now it also means heat. So in order to talk about that, I have to use a red font. Heat. Creation is difficult. Creation is chaos. Creation is hot. Creation demands energy. So if you are losing your hair, for example, if you're a middle-aged person and you're losing your hair, because if you touch the surface of your head is hot. And the reason for that is these two uh, houses here, Kadagam and Simham, probably you're going through a Dasa and Bhukti where those two houses are activated, negatively activated. So you are radiating heat. Creation is happening, no doubt. There are other elements of positive things happening in your life, but it is taking a toll on you. And this is the basis of astrology. I think in most of my videos, I will say that each house, including the 6th, 8th, and 12th house, the Dustana houses, they are both good and bad. They are good things, they are bad things. For example, in house number 6, it gives you illness. It represents financial debt, financial difficulty. It represents enemies, but it also represents work, being employed. So, although 6th house is negative for you, which is good, that means you do not have illnesses or enemies, but you may not also have a job. And what is the point of that? So, you need the 6th house, you need your Dustana house. So, in the same way, heat means also you're angry. You also get quick to anger. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Well, depends. If you're a police officer and you are in charge of nabbing criminals, that could be an advantage. But if you're a surgeon, anger is not really going to help you. You need to be calm in order to hold the surgical knife. And again, subsequent events, are you going to cause a mortality on the operating table and cause death for your patient? So these are just what if scenarios, and it's like a cascading effect, a domino effect, one leading to another. And this is where I say that in order to get into an accident, you need to have a car first. So the planets before that accident's supposed to happen, the planet that is um, in charge of giving you money, it'll play its role, give you a job so that you can afford to buy a car, so that the subsequent event of getting into an accident can happen. Right, so coming back to our chart here, Saturn, if we talk about birth on the middle right side, Saturn, as you would imagine, represents death. Death doesn't necessarily mean dying, mortal death. Death could be the ending of things, right? It could just mean end of such events in your life like marriage. Your first marriage might end. Maybe there's chances of you to get your second marriage. That depends on your 11th house, on Venus, right? Who's the 11th house owner, where that planet is placed, and also your future partner, how their 11th house or 7th house is looking like, and their Venus as well. So, ending of a particular event. And it also, because Saturn is on the other side, it also, opposite of heat is cold. You're very cold. Your heart is not pumping as much blood as it should. It is getting sluggish. You are getting sluggish. Your knees are painful. Your muscles are tightened because you are feeling cold. Natural physical cold, also cold in events, which is opposite of death of events. Cold of events is such things like taking time for something to manifest, right? So, what about organs, right? If on the other side, creation is ovum and sperm, on this side, it is every organ that has to do with meditation. It's the ending of things, right? So at the end, the purpose of all this, Saturn is the cardinal or the aspector of karma. Saturn comes in to actually try to assuage you to burn off your karma so that you can reach your ultimate goal of life, of human life, which is moksha, nirvana. So that's the end of your journey, your humanistic journey, where, according to the Vedic sciences, you take about 14 million births as humans so that you clear off all your karma. Now, this is something that we cannot necessarily prove. What birth is it right now for you or me? Unless you're on the sadhana path, right? Meditation. If you're on the pathway, that is, uh, those truths are actually revealed to you, and those truths are actually governed by Saturn. So, in that sense, uh, what does that mean? What does that mean in terms of which organ dictates that? Well, definitely your brain. Saturn represents brain functions. Among people always say Mercury and Jupiter also represents it because it represents book knowledge and sastra, jnana sastra, knowledge that you're born with. Right? You may be good with mathematics or music naturally, versus your siblings or your parents who do not necessarily have the knowledge. But yeah, so you've got Mercury and Jupiter representing that. But Saturn, again, when I say brain, it is more for your sadhana purposes. Many people say there are some organs which is kind of activate your third eye, right? But out of your seven chakras, the one that is close to your crown chakra and the one near your brain, I think it's chakra number 6 and 7. I think I'm not sure what it's called at this time. Uh, it's not hitting my head, but the brain for sadhana, for the preparation of leaving this world. Again, it's all the final journey of life, whether you have it or not. It's on this side of the Vedic chart. And every other planets do play a role, right? We have to live our life as humans. We've got economic duties, we've got family duties to take care of. We've got our bosses, right? We've got a business to get into, make money, buy houses, homes, cars, get educated, go for postgraduate studies, overseas travel, overseas stay, getting citizenship in another country. All those are day-to-day tasks of life, actually. The obligatory function of the current economy. That's what we are doing. 100 years ago, we didn't do these things. We were mostly in farming and building temples and getting into spiritual life. But some of us are still continuing that. So, in the basis of, uh, again, for Saturn being on the left's middle side for death, what that also means is funerary events, funerals, homes, corpses, hospitals, cemetery, graveyards. Right? So that represents is represented by the middle um, left side. So creation on the right, the exact opposite has to happen. So in other formats, we can also say think of creation for the sun and the moon is represented by. Let me just rub off some parts here so we can carry on with our uh, dictation. Sun and the moon for creation is Brahma, or the significator for creation. Now, on this side, we actually had Saturn. So we have Shiva, the one who dwells in graveyards, covered in soot and ash of the dead, who represents death, who can actually give you death in the form of moksha if you ask for it. If you're ready for that knowledge and ready for that part of the journey, Shiva is represented here, Brahma is in the other side. Naturally, now I think you all are able to connect the dots, right? So naturally, every other parts, every other segments here, this middle part, if you are talking about the everyday happenings of life, right? So that is Vishnu, the protector or the observer of things, making sure that you get to live a comfortable life or not. Again, depends on uh, your placement of planets, what your karma is. But in terms of the deities, you've got Brahma, Shiva, Vishnu. But the interesting thing about Vishnu is he actually has to consult Brahma and Shiva before granting you uh, your humanistic welfare, your day-to-day living, whether you win a lottery or not. Well, if you're supposed to die in this term, in this birth and get moksha, if this is your birth for that, you're not going to win the lottery. You're not supposed to indulge in the physical samskara of life. You're supposed to get tired, sick and tired of the humanistic life, and then get ready to move on to moksha and godhood and being one with Shiva, or however you depict that to be. But the Vedic sciences, astrological sciences of the Vedas, actually is closely tied with concepts of moksha, concepts of liberation. And you cannot talk about karma without even talking about moksha. That is the purpose of why we are getting into trouble, why we have Ashtamasani, Janmasani, Sade Sati to cleanse of our karma so that we are getting closer and closer uh, to the final kickoff to moksha. As I am researching the purpose of astrology, the purpose of all this, what is the meaning of all this, getting closer to the aspect of moksha seemed to be the only valid reason, and it kind of holds true. Anyway, that is a whole different topic. altogether. But in this overview video, I was hoping to talk about, and I think I did, some major overviews that astrology presents, and there are many more concepts. So when even if you're talking about ovum and sperm in the reproductive system of the mother and father, and that represents us, the two cells that actually was our genesis, was our nexus to start. The two cells actually kicked off our existence here. So those are the two most important planets, the sun and the moon. And the moon is kind of the interesting one. That's the only planet that can grow and shrink. Now there are whole other things we have to talk about. We have to talk about Rahu and Ketu affecting the sun and the moon, because Rahu and Ketu is especially Rahu, he hates the sun and the moon, and that's a whole different topic by itself. We will get into it. Right. Anyhow, I hope this overview was useful to give you an understanding. So when I say an overview to how we predict, well, these are just one part of it. So if someone is talking to me or asking me a question about their mothers in the hospital and it looks like they may not make it, so what do you look at? So not just this, we look at a whole bunch of other things like eighth house representing death, owner of the eighth house, Saturn, Sunny itself, and the two kumbham, Magaram kumbham on the middle left side, and also stepping into briefly the Navamsa chart. All that has to be considered before we give the final prediction. Anyhow, friends, I hope you found this video enjoyable. Please leave a comment, some feedback, questions below, and I will create more content and talk to you all soon. God bless everyone. Take care.